Righty-ho. I've been for a few days, or is it 3 or 4 days, waffling, jotting a few paragraphs on ralphskism.com, and also doing 1 or 2 waffles on terribly difficult word, happiness. I have to put this on pause, somebody's coming. Is this carrying on recording? Right, that would make me happy if I had a film camera person. Nah, I'm just being silly. Right. One thing I know. See, these make me happy. Now, well, they do. Actually, that is kind of good timing. Right, get to the point, because this is so hard to do. There are so many stupid books out there. 10 steps to this, blah, blah, blah. I don't trust one of them. I've browsed them over the years. Utter garbage. No, that sounds kind of heretical. Most important thing about happiness is it has to kind of be sustained over a period of time. It has to be not dependent on a new job or change of circumstances such that there's somebody else coming. I'm not happy. I don't think I've ever really done that. Putting pause on. That's interesting, because, okay, these small little bloody villagey towns around here, they're strange. But I had to, in other words, I don't really want to be seen as somebody wandering around talking into a camera, but that's not unhappy. I had to wander around from 2016 summer for 4 years until spring 2020, censoring myself. That's definitely not going to make you happy. I had to keep... Hello? My true self. I had to censor myself. I couldn't be myself. Why? Because I lived in a place where a very Brexity cabal owned all the rentals, and they really were. They were just so like, it's us now. No, I would have never have spoken with them prior to that time about the European Union, the complete modernity of that progressive, wonderful change that came about in the 80s into 90s. But they would have assumed, people like me, oh, they came into my house once, doing a landlord's check, and I had 1,000 books in my small passageway, a corridor, and it's like, you got a comment. And it really was a kind of, you got a lot of books, they don't do people much good. And these were very wealthy, very chavvy creeps. But the bullnecks, total bullneck, they're in charge. As of 2016, it's their world, they won. But First of all, speaking about this became the endless subject with my own few people, and then speaking around and about when one encountered people, or even speaking in cafes. And I didn't go to pubs, but having a cup of coffee in the Border Bean Cafe in Kington. They were progressive and horrified at Brexit, but even there, you felt you had to keep your voice down, because there may be a friend of the dreadful fucking, just the worst human being I've ever met, landlady. Well, I managed to play her. There might be a friend. Ooh, I heard one of your tenants. He was really going on about how terrible it is that this vote happened, blah blah blah. That would have been enough to put you at the top of the hit list. The great thing about 2020 is that, well, A, we kind of knew. I knew that I was going to be gentrified out anyway. B, do you know what? I'm going to stop paying my rent, and I'm just going to, oh sorry, I've got any more work. Work's dried up, which is actually true. And it's a bloody motorway down here. Which I did. What you going to do about it? But you don't quite do it that way, because I never do anything that way. So, oh, I'm so sorry. The people I used to do land work for, light building, fixing sheds, that kind of thing. But I had a shed I was rebuilding like that, 20, half the width, outdoors. Nobody lived at the property, and the neurotic mental health nurse from London, well, she was from Prestine originally, I think. Yeah. Oh no, we're going to have to suspend it. For God's, I mean, this is, look at this. Now this is not the key to happiness. Even though, to me, seeing a pathway like this, that's just, to me, kind of the most beautiful thing almost imaginable. The decent, well, invade the bluebells. Anyway, right, I've got to keep this kind of short. But I got long things that I've been waffling on about happiness. I know, in my early 30s even, yes, early 30s, I spent a few years like trying to find really good books about, I mean, I even read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Shit, it really is not, it's not about happiness. It's not, believe me, the keys to happiness are not in that book. Somehow, I'll never quite have the, well, I wrote something this morning, or yesterday. God, I'm speaking like a Jabberwocky now. That's the point. It's actually really, I've read many. If you're a 25-year-old young person, probably more likely man, I mean, I have no idea where my 300 subscribers have come from, and I couldn't give a shit. I've already written something or spoken. I've done an audio, I think. I couldn't give a shit if. So this is the worst YouTube idiot fool, or I don't think in terms of YouTube. This is the worst person expressing themselves on the internet ever. Wouldn't bother me, because I'm actually happy. That's actually part of it. Right. Yeah. 31, 32, 33, 34. I was at the stage of life like I'd really like to find some books that are people who've battled on through and found simple to pass on wisdoms about how really to ride that wave well. I've never found any, and I've read all the best modern literature, lots of the classics too. Oh, there are clues. There are definite. I mean, Gabriel Oak, George Eliot's Gabriel Oak is, so what am I talking about? Thomas Hardy's Gabriel Oak. I think that's a portrayal of a happy person. But we can't live as they lived, although it's about much more than just agrarian existence. Anyway, to the point. There isn't a point. There really isn't a point. It's quite a big, it's a really difficult subject. I've sat down 3 or 4 times. It's worthwhile. I've planned it, but I speak and jot about simple life. It's not, well, it is about the simple life, but actually I only really thought about it today. An hour walk to go and get groceries. It's not about the simple life. It's about what were the ingredients to, quite amazingly, gradually as of 4 or 5 years ago, becoming much happier. In fact, probably for the first time in my life, definitely, whatever's happened for me, in theory a load of pretty standard awful things in a way, and there's been no magical key to becoming happy, but whatever has happened to me, the ways that I've gone through life, it's okay. The net effect has been a state, certainly as of about 2021, of definite, pretty constant happiness. I had a massive eviction to deal with that was coming anyway, so it's like not, and those things are never entirely stress-free, particularly when no bugger would help me move. So, not all of the time. Right, I'm going to turn the camera off now. Happiness, it is really important. I know there's nothing that really goes through the damn thing and finds a good way of assisting, guiding, or just laying out a kind of, well, it's not a blueprint, but it's like, hey, you will be alright, or you can be alright, without any, I mean, this is the one thing, if there's something about me, and this is almost heresy, do I look like I care? Like, none of the guidebooks, none of the 12 steps, none of the mindfulness, none of the Russell Brand kind of, or Jordan Peterson kind of, or, oh, then there's a load of women with that kind of, it's all bossy, they're bossing you, and they're all crap. They do not work. Worse than that, they may work for a short period, almost like the placebo effect or the euphoria of their, hey, if you read Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, I'm afraid to say I've known some very unhappy people that swear by that book, or rather, unhappy is the wrong word. I see them not. Their body language is bad. Their behaviour is erratic. They've lost track of the simple rules of life. So, as I was saying, worse than, there's nothing worse than being given, if you read, oh, this book really is the book that's going to help you go forward and go up a bit in terms of your general sense of, actually, yes, I am kind of happy, or rather having good energy. I do not use the crap words, vibration, all of these kind of dreadful, meaningless, trendy, pathetic, out of fucking Glastonbury kind of words. But there's nothing worse than buying in, even though it might be 50p at a charity shop for Mr. Tolle or whoever else, getting a bit of a placebo effect, getting a bit of a euphoria. Oh yes, this really is it. These beautiful words. This, I can just see him behind, just spreading his dodgy and I'm sure acted out Messiah thing. And it's coming to me too. There's a euphoria there, without a doubt, I think, for many. There's nothing worse than discovering 3 months later, 6 months later, oh, I actually have returned to being the same person. So even that world famous so-called, I've never used this word in my life, I shouldn't be using it now, hack of the human condition actually hasn't done me much good. That's even worse than never bothering to try to ponder what is happiness, how might it occur. That's even worse. I bet you plenty of people have committed suicide at that point. And I wouldn't even wish Donald Trump, to me, the total enemy. I'm an absolutely modern, totally progressive, but not the silly extreme version that we have in some people. Always have been. Universal human rights, egalitarianism, brotherhood of man throughout the world. But I wouldn't even wish Donald Trump a bad cold. Right, camera off. But there's quite a lot of not good, but attempts. I really just need to sit down actually and write out 100 pages of certain things, certain periods that I've gone through, and I know it's impossible. You see, this is the point. It's impossible to say those 2-3 conditions that came to pass over a period of time, the net effect was happiness. That's wrong. If anybody speaks like that about anything, be it religion, be it even diet, be it almost anything, they are a fanatic, a charlatan, and a snake oil vendor if they require 1 penny from you. That's not. But there are a few things, maybe those unusual ingredients combined have caused happiness, despite terrible negative human things. Point being, I need to lay it out fairly simply. Well, if you can have all the kind of tragic and rejecting stuff and yet still be okay, well, it's just worth knowing about that. That was terrible.